you ever met Kurt Angle or Lou Thesz?
I've met Kurt Angle, but I've never met Lou Thesz before. And Kurt, I think I've met Kurt in amateur. I went to one of his camps, like back in '90. It was quite like '93. That was the first time I ever met Kurt. And then after that, I met him at the house show in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So if that answers your question, but never Lou Thesz before. No.
What do the people in amateur wrestling feel about Kurt Angle? Because I know at the beginning, I actually follow amateur fairly close, and I know at the beginning it was almost like when he first went into pro wrestling, it was like they just didn't even acknowledge it. I mean, at all. It was like, and now all of a sudden, it's like everyone's like, oh wow, this is great.
Yeah. I mean, it's that old analogy, it's like jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, what could they say? What can they say now? Of course, they're going to say horrible things. I'm glad Kurt went and did what he did and has gotten to where he has gotten because it made it easier on us amateur guys, a heck of a lot easier, to follow in his footsteps. But they can't say nothing about stepping in and a year and a half later being the WWF champion. And I'm very happy for Kurt, and I think that it's great that somebody that knows the amateur people and the way of life, the amateur life, and can become WWF champion. I think it's great. But as far as people talking down about him, now of course they're not going to now. I mean, he's become successful at it. And they definitely were going to turn their backs on him if he wasn't successful. That's just the way people are. And I think it's great. I'm happy for Kurt.
He really changed a lot of minds because, I would say probably through the 60s, mid-60s, a lot of amateur wrestlers went into pro and were very successful, like Vern Gagne, Jack Briscoe, Dick Hutton, Ray Gunkel. I mean, there's just a little Denny Hodge. I mean, there's just one after Gorilla Monsoon, one after another. And then around in the mid-'60s, the mentality in pro wrestling was, for a lot of various different reasons, that amateur wrestlers didn't make good pros, and they kind of, and there were a few that came in, Steve Williams did pretty well, late Gary Albright, but very few, actually. And then Angle came in, and it opened the doors for you and Sylvester Terkay, who's also in Ohio Valley, and Shelton Benjamin, and just like, they really I think that it's just kind of interesting that one guy just coming in and being so successful is all of a sudden people are going like, oh, maybe looking at like a top amateur. I mean, I know like with Jim Ross, I mean, his mentality is that if you're a top level amateur wrestler, that you're used to a lot of dedication and a lot of sacrifice without necessarily a lot of gain monetarily. And you're not going to cry about, your fingernail being broken and you're basically going to be a tough guy if you can make it to that level. And he thinks that that's the kind of people that, in the WWF, it's a different kind of punishment, but, you got to be able to take pain and not cry about it.